What's up, guys? Maidslave here, and today we talk Iced Earth. Now I'm really excited today to talk about this band because, first of all, they're one of the most underrated bands of all time. I'm sure plenty of you know that. There's not too many reviews, there's not even that many interviews of this band online. It's kind of hard to find a lot of stuff, and anything that you do find, it's really about a lot of their new stuff, and in my opinion, their best stuff is the old stuff. So one person that we have to talk about first of all before we can go on talking about Iced Earth is a guy named Jon Schaffer. He is the founder, the brains, the pretty much everything behind the operation. He's kind of like the Dave Mustaine of Iced Earth. So Iced Earth was formed in the mid-1980s, actually, around 1984, and originally they were called The Rose. Kind of a weird name for a heavy metal band. Eventually it changed to Purgatory, which in my opinion is much better than Iced Earth. Unfortunately, there was another band at the time named Purgatory, something like that. So Jon changed it to Iced Earth, which was dedicated to one of his good friends, I believe his best friend that died. He said Iced Earth would be a cool name. Around 1988, they became Iced Earth. They put out a few demos. Enter the Realm is their most famous demo. And they released their debut album. It released in 1990 in Europe, and it released in 1991 in the US. And there's a few different pieces of artwork for this album. There's the original that came out in Europe, which is like that devil thing attacking the angel. A lot more color in this picture. It's like red, like he's really red. The Iced Earth logo is very colorful. And then there's the American version, which is kind of like an angel falling, and there's like snow in the back. And then there's the remastered version, which is kind of like a remake of the old European version. It looks a little bit better. But my favorite is the original American version, because that's the first one that I saw. And there's a little bit too much going on in that other version for me. I'm sure there's meaning behind it, but, you know, whatever. So, Iced Earth is kind of an odd band. It's kind of hard to stick them into a certain genre, because they were very influenced. Jon himself was very influenced by a lot of the new wave, like the thrash metal bands in the 80s were, like Iron Maiden and stuff, and Kiss. But they kind of grew up in the Florida area around Tampa, I think, which was, they were kind of growing up and forming around the same time that a lot of the big death metal bands were forming. You know, Death, Cannibal Corpse. That whole area in Florida is kind of known for the origin of death metal. So they kind of hung out with a lot of death metal acts. Now the funny thing about Iced Earth is they are not a death metal band, but I really feel that in the first maybe 2 or 3 albums, they kind of still had this dark atmosphere that you get from death metal. If you guys can catch what I'm saying here. Yeah, they're not death metal, but there's still that dark energy that came from death metal. You can tell that they grew up with death metal bands. But they themselves aren't a death metal act. Another kind of important thing to discuss when you're discussing Iced Earth is the lead singers. They're kind of like Iron Maiden. There's different eras of this band because of different singers. Couple of the big singers that you can talk about is Matt Barlow's kind of their main singer. Tim Ripper Owens kind of played a bigger role. A lot of people like him, and now they have Stu Block. But there was a few different singers in the very beginning, and on this album there was a guy named Gene Adam. And yeah, he's not as good as Matt Barlow in my opinion. But he's not bad. I mean, this album is so well written. It's like he was just given the tools, and that's all he had to do was go into the studio and fucking sing and do what Jon told him to do. And it was going to be a really great album no matter what. So let's talk about the actual debut album. Yeah, the first song is called Iced Earth, and this is the title track of the album, and it is their kind of title track to their band. And when I first listened to this, I kind of didn't enjoy it that much. It starts out kind of weird for me. It starts out, I don't know, I guess you would say groovy, but eventually it gets into a very fast part, very, very rhythmic. Now, as I was saying, Iced Earth is so, they're so different because they're kind of like the riffs. If you had a big melting pot and you threw the riffs from thrash metal, the melodies from, and maybe some of the choruses from power metal, new wave, and kind of the dark energy on the first few albums from death metal, and you get Iced Earth, and mixing those things in one pot a lot of times can be a disaster. But you know, through Jon Schaffer's genius writing, he makes it work. Now, the unique thing about Jon Schaffer is I really feel that he brought a lot of new things to the table, you know, and unfortunately his band was at its peak during the decline of metal, that is the 1990s. I think that if he was around maybe one decade earlier, instead of 91, it came out in 81, the metal game would have been completely different. Iced Earth would have been a way bigger band. Because, yeah, a lot of the hardcore riffs came from the thrash era, but Jon had this way of not only playing crazy riffs, but he had melodies within these riffs. It was melodic riffs, and that's the best thing about Iced Earth, that I feel. And that comes out a lot in the first song, Iced Earth. Next song is called Written on the Walls, and this song is kind of, there's one thing to say about the song. Yeah, this song is, if you guys, most of you listen to it now, you're going to think, oh, that's Cast in Stone. A lot of these songs were reworked, rewritten, remastered on a compilation called Days of Purgatory, of which I will probably actually review because it's so much different that I feel that it deserves its own score. They changed a lot of these early songs completely, but Written on the Walls is a great song. It's a great song no matter what. I really like the intro. It's very dark. It has like that pianos playing. And it's a great song by itself. The lyrics are a little bit weak compared to later on being Cast in Stone. Next song is called Colors, and this song is great no matter what. Excellent song. Gene does an okay job on the vocals. He gets it all done. There's never a moment where I'm like, he fucking sucks. He's just like, okay, the music's so good, I don't even pay attention to his vocals. Even when he does that weird, growly, like, high-pitched thing. Colors is great. We all know that. Curse in the Sky is... It's the first moment on the album where we kind of get a little bit of a slow. It slows down, a little bit slow-paced. But the second half picks up, of course, with these riffs from Jon. He has so many ideas that you can tell there's so much energy coming out, and it shows a much more melodic side of the band, too, in this song, Curse the Sky. Next song is called Life and Death. Life and Death. And this song, too, has a bit of a slow intro. It sounds a little bit weird for the album. It sounds, I don't know, it just sounds a little bit different. It kind of sets up a different atmosphere, but eventually it will pick up and it turns into a very good song. The next two songs are instrumentals, and they're kind of connected. The first one being Solitude, the second one being Funeral. And this is definitely one of the more darker energy type moments, one of the more death metal-y type moments on the album, as far as, you know, the dark energy goes. Solitude is just acoustics, and it shows a much more beautiful, kind of a much more light side to Iced Earth, and it kind of gives us... It kind of lets the listener know that this is not going to be a band that just plays hard fucking riffs all the time. They're going to slow down and play beautiful stuff. Now, the interesting thing about Solitude is, yeah, it's acoustic, but man, it just feels dark. It feels eerie. It has a lot of energy, even though it's just acoustics. It goes into a song called Funeral, which is the full-scale band attack, and it is one of the best instrumentals, in my opinion, in metal. I definitely will put it up there with some of the great instrumentals that, you know, even Metallica have done. It has a slow part in the beginning, in the middle. It's very progressive. At the end, it gets very fast, and it completely depicts the melodic riffage that I was talking about from Jon. And the last song is called When the Night Falls. And this is kind of the epic of the album, the kind of last big long song. And compared to Iced Earth's later epics that they would write, we all know what I'm talking about. It kind of is pretty weak, but it is not a bad song, though. It's really great. For me, it kind of starts out a little bit. It takes a while to pick up, but it is a great song nonetheless. So, Iced Earth's debut album is definitely a masterpiece in my eyes. Even with Gene Adam on vocals, it still is a solid album. It still holds up to this day. If you just take this album for what it is and you listen to it, I know a lot of Iced Earth fans kind of, when they want to listen to the old songs, they'll usually go to Days of Purgatory. Maybe some people won't even do that. I know a lot of people like the first couple albums with the different singers. There's probably even some people that don't even like Matt Barlow. But anyways, yeah, this album by itself is definitely one of the great heavy metal debuts. It's a very solid album. I can easily listen to it from top to bottom with no problem. So, yeah, guys, I'm going to give Iced Earth's debut album a 9 out of 10. Later.